Coming up, even in this disappointing season for the Orlando Magic, we'll see if they're going to be able to sneak a player onto one of the all NBA teams at the end of the season. It's not going to end up being Paolo or Franz, of course, but we'll check the candidacy of Desmond Bane. Welcome to the Orlando Magic Nation, your source for all things Orlando Magic on YouTube. For Magic fans, by a Magic fan. I'm Edwin Valentine, and I want to thank you very much for clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. Got to do the normal YouTube things, like, share, drop a comment below, and if you want to do so, hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on any content that I produce. And if you're listening to this on audio only, make sure to drop a comment and or rate it 5 stars. That really helps the show get to more people. So let's get started. Now, the All NBA teams are something that we hear a lot about throughout the season. It obviously is a big deal because it affects a lot of the guys' contracts, and it's something that the media talks about a lot because they're the ones that vote for the all NBA teams. So that's why you hear a lot of NBA podcasters or different all sport podcasters, but who have credentials in the NBA. You hear them talk about it a lot because for a lot of them, it's a real important thing because they know how important it is to the players. It not only kind of tells the contextual story of what happened this year in the NBA. Again, it has an impact on the contracts for the guys, on whether they all of a sudden move into a supermax contract where they go from maybe making 30% of the cap to 35% of the cap. So there's a lot that goes behind the all NBA conversation. So that's why it's talked about a lot throughout the NBA season. Now, again, it's something that is voted on by the media. So narrative really takes a hold, and this is why I talked about, if you watch a lot of my videos from the past summer going into this season, was that the Magic needed to come out to a fast start so that there would be a lot of good juju, a lot of good discussion about the Orlando Magic, because narrative is one of those things that it's really hard to move. It's kind of like trying to move a giant cruise liner. It really takes a long time to get that to shift. So as we see even now, right, the Magic have played much better this season, even though it has been disappointing. The way they're talking about the Magic, most of the media members, is just how disappointing this season is. And they're not reaching the expectations that were made by all of us, to be honest. They're not reaching the expectations. Paolo's playing poorly. Franz can never stay healthy. Neither can Jalen. So you have all these different narratives. Oh, Paolo and Mosley are arguing in the public. There's all these different narratives about the team, but none of it is necessarily positive, right? Even though we have started to have a couple positive things, like AB all of a sudden kind of jumping up there for a little bit. He hasn't played as well recently. We don't know how much that injury is starting to affect him, the quad injury that he sustained recently, because he had a pretty poor game against Dallas. But that's a positive that's come up from the season. And the other big positive for me has been Desmond Bane. Again, you want to talk about the narrative. Last offseason, everyone was like, oh, 4 first-round picks plus swaps, and we lost KCP, and you gave up Cole Anthony, who was an integral part to like the culture, let's say, of the team. So we heard all of that, and that became a big deal. And June 15, 2025, which was the day of the trade, is kind of like an inflection point for the team. I feel that even if it's not necessarily paying dividends this season, even though I feel Desmond has done a great job of raising the floor and keeping us afloat when Paolo hasn't played well and Franz has missed most of the season. So he's been obviously something of a floor raiser. He's definitely helped out the team in so many ways, but the narrative was, well, okay, we're now supposed to be competing for not necessarily a championship, because I think everybody still understands the Magic are, I think as of right now, the 6th youngest team in the NBA. So we're still very, very young. We still need more seasoning, but they expected us to at least make a little bit more of a playoff run than we have the last couple seasons. And I think everybody pretty much feels that way. That's how everyone felt before. And even now, people are starting to feel good if we're able to get that 6th seed, that maybe Franz will come back and maybe everything will fall into place and we'll be able to make a long run. That's what I'm hoping for, but you never know, obviously, if that's going to be something that happens or not. So we can't hang our hat on that necessarily. But June 15, 2025 was an inflection point. And that's basically us saying we're pushing all our chips in, we're all in. This is the four that we're gonna ride with, and with some help, let's say health wise, from the basketball gods, maybe we'll be able to make a long run. So that's where it all started, and that's the narrative behind Desmond at first. At that point was, oh my god, they put so much draft capital into this trade. Is this something that's going to be something that pushes them over the top, right? And from what we've seen this year, from the way Desmond has played through most of the season, obviously any NBA player has some ups and downs throughout the course of an NBA season. But if you look at the totality of the season, we see that Desmond really has made a positive impact on the team in so many ways. So at least the narrative doesn't feel so much of like, oh, the Magic really screwed themselves by giving up all these picks. It feels like, okay, well, they got a guy, he's playing the best of anybody on the team this year. So at least it wasn't a foolish thing to do to give up all those draft picks and a couple players to be able to get Desmond. So at least in that way, the narrative has started to shift a little bit on the Magic, necessarily not on Desmond, because Desmond came kind of fully formed in a lot of ways. Everybody's like, all right, he's going to be a secondary ball handler. He's going to be a shooter. That's who he's going to be. And boy, he struggled at the beginning of the season. But as we saw in February, with him shooting basically 50% from three, he's got all of his numbers up. We'll go over his numbers. So at least the narrative for Desmond in particular is the fact that, okay, at least he is who they said he was, right? That he came in, he's tried to settle things down as best as possible. Whenever we need a bucket, they have been able to find him over the course of the season, especially in crunch time, where he's won a couple games with last second shots. So that's something that has been a very positive thing, and something that, at least narrative wise for Desmond particularly, it ended up being pretty good. Now, when the panel of media guys are looking at, and ladies are looking at the All NBA team, they kind of have three criteria, from what I can gather, looking things up online and reading different articles. It's the individual stats of the players. It's the overall team performance on how they're doing, and the advanced stats. So the individual stats and the advanced stats are kind of the individual thing, and then obviously if the team is going to end up 60-22 in the season, then of course there's going to be at least one or two guys from that team on the All NBA team, because likely they have performed uber well over the course of the season. So we'll go over now a bit of his stats for the season. So we're going to kind of lay out the candidacy by looking at his stats, looking at some of the advanced stats, and then we'll talk about the performance of the team at the end. So if we're going to add this here. So now these are his stats for the season so far. Now, I wouldn't say they necessarily jump off the screen. I'd say the big things to look through is the availability, just like everyone says constantly all throughout the pod sphere. Everyone talks about the best availability, or the best ability is availability, right? So 61 games of 61 games, he's played all the games. He's one of only a handful of guys that have done that. He has a good amount of minutes as well. He's over 2,000 minutes so far. He's shooting 48.5% from the field overall. He's shooting 39.3% from three and 91.6% from the free throw line. So I think those numbers there are going to be the biggest numbers that will pop off, because yes, he's done a good job in getting that 3-point percentage way up from where it was at the beginning of the season. He hasn't really been rebounding as much as he has in previous years, and the assist numbers aren't there as well. But it's mostly because of the offense that the Magic are playing versus the way the Memphis Grizzlies played. Even now, where the Memphis Grizzlies are kind of tanking the rest of their season, offensively, they still have a lot more flow than what we have. So again, that really goes more towards coaching, I believe, and philosophy offensively than it does to the player. But unfortunately, the player sometimes will get dinged on that kind of thing. So if we look at what the averages are, just so that we have the averages for the rest of the other stats. So 20.2 points per game. He's shooting, if we round up, 49, 39, 92 from the field, and then averaging about 4.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists per game, 2 turnovers, which is still less than a lot of his last few seasons, which again feels like a lot for us sometimes because the possessions are so few. Even though we are playing faster this year than we have in previous years, it still is much less than a lot of other teams. He has a steal per game, half a block, so he's definitely been impactful on both ends of the court. He's not a KCP type, which is what we had last year at the shooting guard position. So that's something that I know we've felt a bit on the defensive end, but he's done a really good job of making sure to continue to compete, to make sure that he's still getting some of these stats. So there's not that he's just kind of coasting to just see how things work out offensively. He's done a good job of continuing to fight and be a part of the defensive philosophy that we say we have as the Magic, and at times throughout the season have really been that team. So those are just the kind of the stats when you look at, actually, if we look at some of the advanced stats. Now there's a kind of like advanced stats, and then there's like deep advanced stats where the nerdy nerds go deep into. So if we're looking at some of the other advanced stats that are more superficial here, the offensive rating is 113.2 for the team while he's on the court. The defensive rating, again, for the team while he's on the court is 111.5. Those are not individual stats, right? So it's just to give you an understanding of how he impacts the team. Net rating of 1.8. He has an assist percentage of 18.7, so that's good. A lot of these other stats, again, are the big ones are the effective field goal percentage. We see 55.4%, which is, he has more opportunity than some of the other seasons he had in the past. So if you look at if you're comparing some of the other seasons, he hasn't shot as well, and that's mostly because of the real difficult start that he had to the season. But his true shooting, as you see, which includes the 3-point range and the free throws, we can see there that he's at almost a career high. He had a couple seasons ago in 22-23 where he was at 60.6%. So that's again, all good things. That's what we needed. Obviously, we needed shooting. We brought him in to shoot. Now, of course, if you've watched a bunch of my other videos, for me, the biggest thing he was brought in here to do was shoot. Now, it's great that he gets to the basket and he ends up being able to finish a lot of the different drives that he does. But I would say his his percentage would be a lot better right now if he would go from driving so often to just maybe pulling up a little short and hitting the mid range, because he tries to take it all the way to the baskets far too often. And because of his lack of wingspan, he gets a lot of shots blocked, a lot of shots. I would say he would probably be shooting 55% from 2-point range or from overall, really, if it wasn't for all his block shots. Like he gets at least one shot blocked per day. Per game, basically, maybe per day, maybe in practice, guys are blocking his shots as well. Maybe his kids are blocking his shots. I don't know. But it's one of those things that you watch the game and you're like, okay, hey, that's a good thing. He attacked the closeout, got all the way to the basket, another rejection. So if he pulled up and shot some more mid-range shots, which he has done, I would say, in the last 25 games, which is, I think, is part of the reason why a lot of his percentages have started to climb a little bit there. So if we go now, look a little bit more, we're going to use the website Data Baller just to kind of know a little bit about some of the deeper, nerdier stats. Like I told you, that's something that they are that a lot of the media guys, that's guys and girls, that's what they do, right? They're constantly looking at the stats, and it's not just kind of looking at the points per game or anything like that. It's obviously they are going to be looking a lot more intently on all things. So this again is a bit of the overview. So, his draft pick when he was drafted, the overview. So a lot of the plus minus stuff is going to be the important thing that a lot of guys start to really look at, or a lot of media members really look at here. So he's in the 92nd percentile in the offensive, the offensive DPM. So that's something that it's a predictive. So for you to know what that is, a predictive offensive impact metric from Darko. So Darko, there's a few. There's a LeBron stats. There's a bunch of different really deep down stats that if you really wanted to dig really into, Data Baller goes into a lot of that, and it's pretty good with that. So rim attack, you see he's in the 96th percentile. You shoot to the short mid-range field goals. He's in the 93rd percentile. Long mid-range, he's in the 90th percentile. 3-point shots, not in the 90th percentile. He's only at the 80th percentile, and that for me is again why we brought him here. So sometimes it gets a bit frustrating that he hasn't shot more threes, but he's there. So really, if we look at impact, because that's what again it's great. You could put up stats, but if the stats are kind of hollow, which is what some people like to talk about, Paolo stats, we have to look at impact here, and this is what I think they look for the most. So as I mentioned before, the offensive DPM, 92nd percentile, even the defense or the daily plus minus, that right there is in the 85th percentile as well. So that just again shows that he is putting in the work. He puts in the work offensively and defensively. He's not just kind of being there just to shoot threes. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he has to only shoot threes. I just want him to shoot more threes because he's such a good shooter. And yeah, he shot 40 threes more than anybody on the Magic, but that's only that's less than one per game more than anybody on the team. So he's played all the games. So he really needs to, ideally, he would pump out some more threes, especially with him being so hot as he has been so far. So if you look at the advanced stats here, it ends up being a little bit more. So we talked about that one before. Shots, so he's in the 86th percentile in true shot attempts per 100. We look at the free throws per 100, in the 89th percentile. We see the difference in defensive field goal percentage there. He's at negative 2.4, so he's an 85th percentile. So like I say, he's contesting shots. He's making sure to get up on guys. And as we know, there have been times where he might be a little too aggressive with the ball, throwing it off players. We've done that a couple times this year, but that's the big thing that just basically adds to what he brings to the Orlando Magic. And again, that's part of the cultural bit. The Magic in the previous years were kind of that pain in the ass to play, right? They were the team that would be in your jersey and bothering you, pestering you, and making sure that you're feeling uncomfortable. Well, Desmond at least continued that, added to that culture when some of our guys who were like that, like Mo was out injured for most of the year, Jalen's been out for most of the year, so we still had at least one guy that's going to get up and into people and talk a whole lot of mess. So that again is a cultural thing that obviously is not something I think that they want to talk about too much or focus on if you're a media member, because I don't think they want to condone him throwing the ball off people. But again, it's just something for, I would say, candidacy, because he's kept that level of intensity throughout the course of the season. So when we look at the six factors, so this is the regularized adjusted plus minus. He's in the 94th percentile. Offensive RAPM, he's in the 98th percentile. We see the offensive true shooting factor is 94th percentile. Offensive turnover factor, 95th percentile. The offensive rebounding factor, 89% percentile. So we see what is possession value RPM. He's on the 93rd percentile. So in many key stats. Like he is in the upper echelon to over 90th percentile in those categories. So again, he's not some bum, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying he automatically should be on one of these all NBA teams. But if a few guys don't reach the 65 game threshold for whatever reason, and some more spots might open up on that third team all NBA, I think he should be at least discussed with some of the other players that will be discussed. So looking here, I think I looked at that one already. But true shooting, 2-point shot attempts, 91st percentile. We already know that. That ideally would have been a lot smaller, but it kind of is what it is. So those are just some of the offensive stats that I would put up against anybody really in the NBA. Of course, there are a lot of incredible players in the NBA, and the all NBA teams are positionless. So in the past, there used to have to be like one point guard in each, or really two guards in each one of the teams. So they could only choose 6 guards in total. And then the same thing with the front court players or the centers. It'd only be three centers total would be in the All NBA. If we remember back to Dwight being on the All NBA team. So with it being positionless, I'm like, all right, well, enough guys have missed out, and maybe again, is Desmond has played very well all throughout the season. You look at his stats. I think that not like a automatic way to get onto one of the All NBA teams, but every NBA player who's played enough games really to qualify for All NBA, who's averaged over 20 points a game, which right now he's averaging over 20 points, and has shot 50, 40, 90, has made it to at least one of the All NBA teams. So at least third team All NBA. So there have been, I think, 14 seasons in total where guys have played and they've shot 50, 40, 90 and scored over 20 points per game. And in all one of the, and no, 50, 40, 90 seasons, there have been 14 total. But guys that have scored over 20 points as well, I think it's I believe it's 10 times that they've also scored over 20 points per game. And each one of those times, again, they've made an All NBA team. Even if it's third team, they've made an All NBA team. So that's where I'm like, okay, if we look at the history, that doesn't automatically mean that he automatically gets to go on there. And I'm not saying that, but if he's done something that, if he's able to get his averages up to 50, 40, 90, he's at 49 if you round up, 49, 39 on those first two. So if he's able to get up to 50, 40, 90 and stay at over 20 points a game, I know some people would classify him as the third best player on the team this year, but he's played the best of anyone and he's been the most consistent. I know the beginning of the season wasn't the greatest, but if you look at the year in total, he's been the most consistent player throughout the season for the Orlando Magic. So for me, I can see that definitely him being at least in the conversation. And let's say if a couple guys end up not making the 65 game minimum. So like I'm saying, I'm not saying he's a top 15 player automatically, but he could do that. Now, I think the thing that would keep him from being able to get there will likely end up being the way the team has performed. So I looked at last year's All NBA, and of those guys, Cade Cunningham was the guy with the team record, was the fewest. It was 44 and 38 was the Detroit Pistons record last year when Cade Cunningham made third team All NBA. So can we get to 44 wins? I think we can get to 44 wins. We have 21 games left at this point, and if the Magic go 11 and 10, then they meet that. They get to 44 games won. Obviously, again, it's a narrative thing, right? So the Detroit Pistons only winning 44 games felt like an incredible accomplishment because they were such crap for so many years. Now, for the Magic, if they only get 45 wins this year, a lot of people are going to see that as a disappointment. So narrative-wise, is that going to be something that Desmond would be able to overcome? I don't know. That I think is going to be the big discussion point. Again, we'll see how many guys end up missing out on the 65 game requirement. And then if that were to happen, then we'll see how many spots are kind of opening up. And again, I think if he gets up to 50, 40, 90 and has averages over the entire season over 20 points per game, then I think in that way you're going to see like, okay, not many guys have done this in a season and then not made all NBA. So we'll see. Again, I'm not one of those people that are like, well, it's already happened. It's always happened this way, so this is the way it is, and that you can never do anything different. So I'm not going to be that person, but I still think that he should at least be in the conversation and be considered for the All NBA team if he's able to, if he, even if he doesn't get up to 50, 40, 90, I feel he should be under consideration because he's ended up being our best player this year, our most reliable, our most available, and our most consistent player this year. And if the Magic end up in the top 5 in the East, there'll be a top 12 team, top 10-ish team in the NBA records wise that I think that again should constitute some consideration for the All NBA. So you let me know. Drop a comment below. And again, if you're listening to audio only, you can always leave a review and let me know what you think, if that's something that he should be considered for. Because if not, you can tell me I'm crazy as well. Just let me know. Any type of feedback is always fun because I don't get to always talk Magic very often with other people. So keep it coming. So if you're on YouTube, do the normal YouTube things, like, share, drop that comment below. And if you're one to do so, hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on any content that I produce. And if you're listening on audio, like I said, rate it 5 stars and drop comments to let me know what you're thinking of the show so far. So I want to thank you very much for clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. I hope you're having a great day.